appreciate you joining us today on Tangibles. And Intangibles are those things that you can't see, those things that you are doing when no one's watching. And we want our listeners and we want parents and kids to really start to realize that the intangible side is the thing that's going to separate you from being good or great. Mm-hmm. And so having you here talking about your story, where you grew up, how you have learned your intangibles and leaned on your intangibles to make you successful on and off the field. I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate having me.
Absolutely.
This is such a great conversation, and I think it's so important, because mental health we talk about, but just learning the platform you've built and kind of the way you see it, like it makes it so real for me or so applicable. And, I love this space, and we were talking about the youth and how the focus should be on younger people, because you can kind of help create or, give the foundation of good habits and critical thinking. And I think about my upbringing, and we talked about intangibles. The first thing I thought about was I learned a lot of good values growing up in a small town, a lot of good people around me. My parents got divorced. I'm thinking, what was my motivation for having success? Like, my personality was I love sports, and that was kind of the identity of our little town. But it's like my reason was to impress my father, to be that was validation for me.
Right.
And so I think about kids now. What's their motivation to pursue whatever they love or are passionate about, to be good at it? Is it, especially in my household, it's a balanced, in a sense, environment. They're loved by their parents. How do I help them visualize being successful and pushing themselves without me having to say, hey, try this, do this. I want them to be the ones, hey, Dad, come help me figure this out, or I'm going to figure this out on my own. Or, it's such a interesting conversation, because we are in a different world, and our kids have more information. They have access to a lot more things. So I'm just excited to dive into this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great starting point for athletes, because we never want to be the overbearing parent to tell a kid that,
Right.
Just hard on them the whole time. But also the things that we grew up shaped us. And my dad wasn't around when I was, a young kid. And so, I was constantly starving, trying to find and get that, and it's shaped me.
Yep.
Would I change it? No. Have I learned a lot from it? Absolutely. Now, how do I now use that as a parent and parent my kid in a way that, I'm there for them, I'm present for them, but not just present, but also emotionally present for them, so they can know that, hey, the things that they are trying to do, they can do it. It's going to be hard sometime, but they got somebody who's not going to just, push everything on them so that they can then succeed on their own, but knowing that they got that person to lean on. So it's going to be a fun conversation. But before we really dive into it, I like to just kind of, let our listeners know, how do we know each other, because I've started some podcasts here, and people are like, well, how do you know how they know each other? I had Hasselback on, and we started talking these inside things about playing days, and I realized that people are like, wait a minute, these are a lot of inside things going on here. What's going on? So Eric and I, we know each other through school. It's very
dad's first.
Yes. Our kids are in the same. We have one kid together in the fifth grade together, and my son. I don't know. I'm scared to tell you this, but I think he has a crush on your daughter.
Is that right?
Because he's always talking about her. He's never said anything, but he's always talking about how athletic she is. How she's the only girl that he wants to put on his team, and so I think there's a little bit of crush there.
That's funny, because I hear about Maxwell too, and just the big personality. He's the big personality in that class, which I love. And so many great conversations about, you find out who the kids are really hanging out with, and you find out different personalities. And I just love, to me, it's exciting, because it kind of brings you back. It's nostalgic to think about when I was in fifth grade, and kind of the friendships you built, and who was the funny guy, who was the wild man, who was the smart person. You kind of you blend those personalities together and hear it from a different perspective.
Yeah, and trust me, when you hear these kids get to talking, you just sit back and just listen. man, you get to know everything.
Everything.
And it almost like they forget that you're around when they start talking to each other.
Right.
And it surprises me when I hear my kids talking, like, hey, you guys realize I'm sitting here, right?
Yeah.
Well, now they got this new language with the skippity riz and skippity toilet and all these different things that they think that we're, still so disconnected that we don't understand. But I've kind of snuck some things in there just to let my kids know, hey, I know what's going on here.
I'm following you.
I know what's going on. Well, Eric, you grew up in a place called Cold Spring, Minnesota.
That's right.
Is it cold? Is it cold as it sounds? Because it sounds so cold.
It's well, you think about location, it's in the middle of the heart of Minnesota. And Minnesota's cold. So yes, it was cold for about 6 months out of the year, but it was a beautiful summer, like a good place to grow up. Would I go there and raise my kids? No. But I did enjoy my upbringing. It was a small town, less than 3,000 people. And so everyone knew everyone, very quaint. Not a lot of business stuff going on. It was like farmland. So you spent your time on the lakes. You kind of went to work, checked in, checked out, and sports was everyone's outlet for entertainment. And so high school sports were everything there. And it's kind of the way I grew up.
So you said farmland. Mm-hmm. Did you have any ties to the farms, or were you just out doing donuts in someone's fields?
Well, my grandpa was a farmer. He had crops and he had the cattle. And so every summer I'd go and have to do chores, feeding the cows, picking the peas, you name it. And so it was, I think, a great lesson of labor and of just kind of mastering the mundane, because it's the same thing over and over, but it's a necessary need. Right. And so now I feel like it's grown on me because I got chickens in my backyard. I got a nice little garden. Like, I enjoy kind of, getting my hands in the soil and just with, I guess feeding the chickens, being around, it kind of grounds me. And so definitely got my hands dirty with farming and definitely got a lot of appreciation for those that do it today.
At the time, did you enjoy the chores?
No, absolutely not. I was miserable. Waking up early and I'm like, why do I got to do this, Mom? Like, instead of going, to a camp or finding the babysitter, it's like you're going to your grandparents. You're going to work on the farm a little bit. Isn't
it funny, man? Same thing. My granddad, we had a farm. We grew cotton and soybeans, and we had cows and goats and all that. I spent a lot of my life trying to get away from that. Yeah. And then I find myself later in life, like, starving for that. Yeah. And now I have my own farm, and to go out and get on a tractor, do some bush hogging, do some cleaning, weeding, and things like that. It's like therapy to me.
It is.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that we spend this time trying to get away from it and then we end up back in it.
Yeah, it really, I think, it becomes a part of you. And I think in our society, we're such a consumer goods society. So I think we get caught up in this hamster wheel. It's nice to, like, go where it's quiet and sit there and just do a simple task, and you kind of just checked out, right? I mean, that's what I love. Like, planting tomatoes and picking weeds isn't necessarily a hard task. It's just, you got to put some time, some labor and
patience,
right? And so a lot of good virtues while you're sitting out there, and just kind of, I think, brings you, like I said, grounds you, brings you back to center and realize, like, what is truly important.
Yeah. So growing up, you were 2-sport athlete.
3-sport.
3-sport.
Yep.
Take me through. I mean, we know that we're obviously the football one.
Yep.
With your stature and build, clearly a baseball guy.
Yep.
I mean, don't tell me you was a soccer player too.
Basketball.
Okay, basketball. All right.
Yeah. Hockey's big in Minnesota, but never got into it. Played a little broom ball.
You was a receiver, so I didn't think you were a hockey guy.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. It wasn't tough enough. My dad played basketball in college, so that's kind of what pushed me to basketball, and wasn't the greatest. I was basically a football player on the court. I just loved to drive, put my shoulder down, and just kind of like get physical with people. I still play this today at our kids' school in the mornings, and I think I'm Kobe Bryant, but definitely not building a brick house. But basketball was probably actually one of the most fun high school sports, just because the intimacy of the tight gym. Yeah. We used to pack the court, and just like it was, we were good too. We had a historical coach. He coached my father, and coached me. Pretty cool.
That's cool.
He was there for like 50 years. But yeah, I love multi-sports. I think to me, that's an important thing nowadays too, where everyone's kind of specializing. You want your kid to be challenged in different ways. You want them to work on different skill sets because they all are transferable. And it's not only a physical challenge, it's a mental challenge, an emotional challenge, and it's good in terms of team building because you're working with different people and you're going through different challenges together. So I always push my kids for multi-sports because that's how I grew up.
Yeah. I mean, how do parents actually help their kids understand being a multi-sport athlete is good for your body and your mental and your spatial awareness. But when we have a coach now who is a travel club baseball guy or AAU basketball team that only wants you to play one sport, how does parents balance that now?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because if you don't have, I think it's the necessary experience that we may have with athletics, like God gave you talents or he didn't. Like people are going to mature and they're going to change. And I think you want to expose your kids to as much as possible. If I'm going through it with my daughter a little bit. She's a gymnast. And so like it is a specializing sport. She's playing basketball and doing track, which it's a hard balance. But like I see the amount of hours she spends in the gym. And it's like, I fear the burnout. And so as a parent, you got to step back and be like, look at the statistics. To make it as a career in this particular sport is so small.
So small.
But like the memories we made, I think were about how much fun we had. I remember as a youth, like going to the baseball field. We had a community baseball field in our city. And I bat boy, scoreboard, ball shagging, playing home run derby in the outfield. Like those are fun memories that built skill and I didn't even know. And I think you want to, I guess, look at it with the perspective of, I want my kid to have fun.
Yeah.
And like, you want to push them a little bit and you want to give them different challenges. But to like focus on one sport year round, like it's the percentages are high on burnout. And so I think you just got to realize like, yeah, your kid may in a sense be behind in 3rd, 4th grade, but that's completely different once they mature and get to 17, 18. And then, they're going to tell you what they want to do at a certain age. And if they're passionate about it, they're going to push themselves in that particular sport or arena. And so that's kind of my philosophy is I want to give them as many opportunities as they want. I'm going to try to help them, mold their skill sets, but like have fun with your buddies. Like this is like the social aspect of it that is fun before it becomes a business. And then once they get older, they're going to, realize what they love and where they want to spend their time. And then you just kind of, wrap your arms around that.
Yeah. I mean, the aspect of making sure they have fun, it's so important. The first thing I say to my kids when they walk off the court or whatever they're doing, did you have fun?
Yep.
That's the first thing. And their face light up because it's not, hey, why didn't you make this shot? Why do you, and it's so rewarding as a parent now, as a dad who can sit on the other side. And because I've had the experience I've had in sports and see their face light up just by me asking them, did you have fun?
Yep.
Because they don't feel that pressure of like they have to perform for that.
Exactly.
And so that's it's great that you're doing. It's important.
Yeah.
And your kids gonna thank you down the road. Right now, they don't really care.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
So 2-sport athlete. What was 3-sport athlete. What was your favorite sport? Obviously you end up in football, but was there something else that's pulling you to?
Yeah, baseball was my first passion. The Twins were good in the first half of my upbringing. So Curry Puckett was like my all-time favorite player. He was a center fielder for the Minnesota Twins. And like, I wanted to be Curry Puckett my entire youthhood. And so, like I said, went to the baseball park, was always around it. So that was my identity in a sense. But once I got to high school and I got to feel the Friday night lights and just kind of the camaraderie of football and the physicality of it, I started to really love football more. And so football also, as I got older, gave me the opportunity to pursue college, and so that was kind of the path I led. And once I got to University of Minnesota, our coach got fired. I'm like, this is my chance to go try out for the baseball team. So I went and tried out that off season for the baseball team and ended up playing both football and baseball in college. So I'd say like both were I was super passionate about it, but I just knew that I was a lot, I guess more polished in football than I was baseball. And baseball was tough because you play so many games. So I just like the lifestyle of it, the draining emotional, grind of it was a little bit more challenging than just like football and like the excitement of the build up to one game a week. And, obviously the setting as well, 50 to 105,000 people in a stadium was pretty unique.
Yeah. When you start to look at, playing two sports, you just mentioned that your parents are divorced. Did you go through any struggles throughout those times that you wish you can go back and redo it, but also that some issues that you some struggles that you may have that you were like, man, I learned from that and I grew as a person. Because what I don't want, we're talking about these intangibles, why it's so important. And, as two athletes who've made that transition out of sports, who've done well on both sides of it, it's we're some of the ones who also still had trouble, and we want people to know that you're not going to get it right when you're trying to figure it out, every single time. But there's things that you learn along the way, and you're able to go back and say, okay, I learned from this. Now I can do this a lot better. Anything come up for you, and especially early on? That's
the beauty of it, to have that mindset. Like, I would never change anything because, like, life happens for a reason, but it's how you react to it. And, it's been a journey for me since I retired. I went through kind of a challenge. I felt like part of me died when football was over. And so I've been on this journey of just like re-identifying myself in a sense, or going back in time and figuring out like, okay, what was my motivation? Like who is Eric in a sense? And so I look at my youth and, I touched on it a little bit, but like a lot of my motivation came when my parents divorced was to like get validation from my dad. Cause my dad was, always present. He's always supportive in the athletic arena, but it was after games, you missed that shot, or, hey, you could have done this. It could have been the best game of my life, but it didn't matter. It's always critical. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, I just got to be the best athlete, and he's going to be proud of me. And that was kind of my thought process. And so there's a lot of lessons that I look back at now as a parent on like how I would do things a little bit different, and I think those things helped me become the athlete I was and I am, I guess, and the success I had in sports.
You still got it in there. You still playing basketball at your age.
And pickleball. You still got it. I think I'm trying to go pro in pickleball now, Chris.
We'll make sure this go viral so you get on the team somewhere.
I got this mindset that I can, make it pro. That's my goal. 2025 is to be a 5-0. That's kind of like pro status. I'm gonna do some tournaments. We'll get on that conversation later. But yeah, just a lot of like digging of how I kind of molded myself, and I realized there's a couple coaches throughout my youthhood, through middle school, high school, that helped me. Like, I was the biggest baby. I was so competitive. I didn't know how to handle my emotions. And I had this one coach that just like rode me and kind of, in a sense, taught me how to like become a man, like stop being a boy. You got to become a man. And so I got a handle of my emotions and was able to use that energy in a healthy way, And so I give a lot of credit to some of those individuals, coaches that helped me along that path.
What was an example of not being able to control your emotions to then being able to control them?
So I remember in basketball, we're down underneath the hoop, and there's kind of a loose ball, and my first reaction, because like I just missed like 3 or 4 shots, and so I'm like, at that point, man, like, live and die off every made basket. How many points I had, like that was the identity marker for me. Mm-hmm. And so loose ball's there, and I went and I like elbowed this kid and like kind of hit him in the face, and we got in a little scuffle, and he's like, coach pulls me off. I got called for a foul, obviously. And I'm just yapping like, why I make this excuse, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, you're benched. And so I was in 9th grade. And so I'm like, fine, I quit. And so I quit basketball, went home, and, for a week, never reached out. And he finally reached out. He said, let's have a meeting. And so we sat down, had a meeting, and he kind of like painted the picture for me and gave me a different perspective on like what he saw to what maybe I was feeling. And I think it made me realize like my actions weren't weren't right. Like I was, obviously very, very emotional. I had to be able to see it differently. And I don't think I necessarily got that coaching in a sense at home sometimes. So to see that made me realize, okay, I want to be back on the team for my buddies, my teammates. And like, I didn't start for a while. And so it taught me how to like come in and be a supportive teammate, humble. Right. Definitely the humility was a huge part at that age. And carried me to when I got to varsity to be a we guy and to be a team guy and to like, it's not always about my statistics or what I accomplished as the boss as a team. I think that was just super helpful because now that's in a sense kind of a big value of mine. It's about the team. It's about we more than the ego that may live inside.
Right. That's great, man. It's, I watch so many young athletes, they go through these struggles because they're trying to figure out how to control their emotions. And it's tough, especially when you're a young kid is getting, your testosterone is shooting through you as a male and you're competitive. And so you let it get the best of you. And so, having a coach that can, what he did, he gave you time.
Exactly. Yeah.
He made you sit with it.
Yep.
Because you thought it was about you.
Yep.
And you were like, oh, I'm one of the best players. He's going to call back and beg me to come back.
Exactly what happened.
But what he did was he pushed it back on you and let you sit with it. And then probably when he called you, finally realized that, all right, I'm going to take this meeting because he's not begging me to come back.
Yeah.
And so I love men like that who can see what's happening and know when to pick their times to have those conversations. So, I mean, I hope you're giving him a ring and saying, hey, thank you because I'm better because of you.
I have, and I've been fortunate enough, like this fall, I got inducted into the Hall of Fame at University of Minnesota, and he's one of the first.
Man. Hey, right here.
Hey, yeah. Let's go,
just
baby.
Went in too. So,
congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
And he was one of the first calls I made. He's been a part of every step, that I've been on this journey of athletics, and so definitely a bright spot in my life.
Yeah. See, hard lesson. See, we don't all have it figured out. We're still trying to figure it out, and in an early age. So it's important to have good people and parents around you that are going to help drive you to be better.
Yep.
And that, again, back to awareness and making you aware of these things. Early in life helps you mold you later. Because if you would have got that lesson later in life, who knows what would have happened.
Right.
So thank goodness you got it early in life. So now we start talking about, you have options. You want to play baseball, you want to go play basketball, you want to go play football. And now it's time to figure out what college you want to go to. Mm-hmm. How did that decision come about? Were you highly recruited? Were you, especially being from a small town,
Yep.
Sometimes it's hard to get recognized because, scouts are not, recruiters are not in a lot of the small towns all the time, especially in Minnesota when it's cold spring, Minnesota, where it's cold. A lot of guys don't want to go hang out in the cold. So
Yeah, definitely not. And you're, just to be honest, like a white skilled guy. That was always my challenge. He said, he's a receiver. Huh. I got a little Lebanese in me, but yeah, very, very much German. It was one of those situations where there's a Division III school, St. John's, and they had a historical coach as well, Gallardi, and they had championship Division III, football championships like galore. And so my idea was I'm going to stay close to home because I'm a creature of comfort. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go outside my box because if I was uncomfortable, I was, what do I do? Exactly what I do. And that's where growth happens, right? But so that was the idea up until I got invited to a one-day camp at University of Minnesota. I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll go. And so I got pushed to go, went down there and had a great camp that day. Coach Mason, who was the head coach, pulled me in his office and says, hey, I want to offer you a scholarship. And I was like, I'll take it. Only scholarship I got. And he's like, no, go home, think about it. Like, no, I'll take it. Like, I don't want you to take it back. And so that changed, the trajectory of my life, because otherwise I'd have been in a small Division III school. I wanted to play multiple sports. But this gave me a chance to represent my state, the biggest public school, Big Ten, and just super blessed that, I don't know how I got noticed, but I got noticed because from a small town, I didn't go to camps. I didn't put my stuff on Rivals, and didn't have a lot of exposure. And so that was, a huge opportunity for me to go to the University of Minnesota.
Were you angry that you wasn't highly recruited?
I
Or did you
wasn't,
even know any better?
no, I didn't know any better. And I don't think I cared enough, but I do, the guy that started Rivals lives here in Nashville, and I give him a hard time every time I see him, like 2-star. He gave me a 2-star rating, and I ended up making it. I'm like, well, how about this guy? That was motivation for me. But no, definitely, wasn't looking to go play at a big time school because I think, not small minded, but I just was comfortable in my setting.
Yeah.
And I was kind of scared to go and be challenged outside my comfort.
Yeah. What is your thoughts on these ratings? I mean, you just said something that I always think back. I think back when I was coming up and how they rated certain people. It's like, what's the criteria?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
I mean, I think now is a little bit easier because people put so much film on there. It's probably a combination, I would assume, of just straight statistics, speed, vertical jump, size, to like then kind of game film, I would assume. And there's probably some AI behind it. But yeah, I mean, it's so subjective, right? I mean, you got people behind a desk punching some numbers and then probably giving their perspective on it. And so you take it with a grain of salt because it really means nothing. Like you got to show up and be the person, right?
Yeah. And speaking of that, you show up on campus as a 2-star. Thanks, Terry.
Yeah.
You show up on campus as a 2-star, and now you go from this small town to a much bigger environment. What was that transition like for you?
It was hard. Honestly, it was tough. I redshirted.
Did you think about leaving?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. So I got through the season. What was funny is I first got there and they had the buffets. They had, during camp, just food galore. I'm like, I put on like 20 pounds in like 2 weeks during training camp. The amount of running I was doing, I thought I had asthma because I was so heavy.
Same here.
It was incredible.
Fat guy.
Yeah. And, it was hard because, I mean, these guys were big, they're physical, fast. And I'm like, where am I going to fit in? And so I just I was put my head down, went to work and did what I was asked. And so I got to the off-season program. And so we're in Minnesota. It's negative probably 5 with a wind chill of negative 15 at 4:30 a.m. workouts. Ooh. And campus is pretty big. So you got to imagine I'm on this moped. I got my snowmobile helmet on, my snowmobile gear because we drove snowmobiles in Minnesota.
Tell me you got somebody on the behind you.
I got no on the back.
No Dumb and Dumber.
No Dumb and Dumber scene. But we did ride, double some places, but it wasn't snowmobile gear. So I'm driving from my apartment complex, which is about a half a mile, and I'm at the stoplight. It's 4:15 in the morning, freezing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not happy. This is hard. Miserable. I'm gonna go home. And so that was a defining moment for me because I get to the workout, I get through it, and kind of we wrap up, the winter workout phase. And like I had this decision to make. Am I gonna quit and give up and do something that's easier? Or am I gonna push myself and try to build some resilience and just get through this? And that's what I decided to do. And like that was, again, a character building moment for me because I was able to kind of, in a sense, be in the valley and be checked out, but to push myself through because I think I was scared to go home and not have, have the idea of like, oh, he quit. Oh, he couldn't handle it. Mm. And so that was, it was almost more of a exterior outside motive that pushed me, which again, you can break down. Is that healthy or not? I don't know, but it got me through that particular time of my life. And like, I'm so grateful for it because that's what I kind of rest my success on is someone that's going to just outwork people, do the extra thing, be consistent, be reliable, show up. And like that's been my career. I'm not the most athletic person, the fastest, the, quickest, but I'll definitely outwork someone and I'll have the mentality that I'm going to like grind and beat you over the course of 4 quarters.
Hey, we call that intangibles.
Intangibles.
Yes. I'm kind of curious about how many athletes before this new wave of transfer portal had that same experience because I had experienced the same thing. My first year at Ole Miss, the summer, we get in on the summertime, and I was a 720-some pound squatter leaving high school.
Yeah.
And so I remember my first set of summer workout, we was, 5 sets of 10 on squat. And my first set was 500 pounds with 5 sets of 10. And I thought I was going to die. And then we finished that and we had to go out and run 110s, 8 110s to start the summer. And I come from a high school where our O-line was big and we just ran the ball down people's throat.
Yep.
We didn't do any extra running. I didn't run track. I didn't, I threw the shot put. So I was off in my corner. If we did any running, run, maybe 5 10s or 5 20s. That's about it. And I had to go run 110s out there lifting that heavy, doing all the different lifts. And I remember going back to my dorm and I called my mom. I was like, hey, Mom, you got to come get me. College football's not for me. You got to come get me now.
Yeah.
And a defining moment for me was she hung up the phone on me. Didn't talk to me, wouldn't answer my call for 2 weeks.
Wow.
2 weeks, I'm every day calling her, begging her to come get me. And I remember after like 3 or 4 days of it, I was like, all right, I'm here now. And I could start to see, okay, this is getting better. And my mom's right. I just know she's right. And same thing in the back of my head, I can't be a quitter, highly recruited, can't just now all of a sudden like quit. And 2 weeks later, finally get my mom on the phone and she's like, you good? I was like, yeah, I'm good. She's like, I didn't raise a quitter. I was like, I know, Mom, I got it. So I think a lot of guys go through that. And I couldn't imagine being in this era right now with the transfer portal, how my career would have looked if I would have just left.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you give kids such an easy out nowadays. And it's hard because they may go through the same fight, but they have the ability to go in the transfer portal. Oh, well, I'm not starting, I'm getting overlooked. I'm just going to go somewhere else, instead of like sitting there and fighting for your position or for yourself and for your team. And the camaraderie, I feel like somewhat gets lost as well, because I was proud to represent, the University of Minnesota, and like whatever it took, I was going to be, the best version of myself for my university. And, I question, is that a lost, identity for some kids, because you start chasing money, you start chasing, again, just like status. I go from being second, tier, third tier to I can start somewhere else. I'm gonna go there, and that's not life. Like life is hard. And so you're gonna go through have some bumps and bruises, and these lessons that we've been through, I think have got us to have success in life because we've been through it, we've faced it, we've had critical thinking, we've had moments of wanting to quit and climbing that hill again and being on top and saying, okay, I know what that looks like. I can handle this. I can do this. And so I want to be able to give that experience to our kids because it is a little bit easier to escape it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now you start to, get settled into college, and then as a 2-star, sorry to keep bringing it up, but I just think it's just so commendable that, you're not highly recruited, you get a scholarship offer, you take it, and now you're starting to get through these workouts. You've gotten through the mental grind of, should I leave? Should I stay? You decide to stay. At what point does success start to happen for you?
So my redshirt freshman year, I played and had success. I would say my sophomore year is when I realized that I could play at this level, and that I was just as good as the kids at Wisconsin or Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. And that for me was kind of got me over the hill in a sense. Like, okay, I'm confident in myself. I can compete with these guys. Like I'm worthy. And so it took, a year and a half, 2 years to get to that point. But I'm glad that it took a little bit longer, because for me, everything is about the journey.
Yeah.
And like baseball in college was that teaching moment as well. That like, you know, I was so fixated on like performance today rather than how am I going to get better and reach the pinnacle in a sense of my athletic ability or performance over a course of time. And I'm thankful that, I didn't have success early and that it kind of built to that point of having success later on because I appreciated, you know, what it took to get there. And it was the everyday being consistent, showing up, getting better. Because every day you're getting better, you're getting worse. That's my mentality. And so that's what I carried every day is I'm going to get better a little bit at a time every day. And it's going to pay off. And, you know, thank God it did.
Man. So, you know, I didn't play 2 sports in college and you've had the ability to play 2 sports and you succeeded at it. You know, how was that balance of trying to be a student athlete while playing 2 sports and succeeding at it and doing well? I mean, it couldn't have been an easy thing.
There wasn't a lot of balance. That was the challenge. I think I did get burnt out. And because the baseball season, we had a good baseball program. So we were playing into the middle of June to the end of June. And, you know, then football was already going on. So I'd take a week off and then jump back into kind of the preseason football workouts. And then we'd play in a bowl game. And usually it was like New Year's Eve. We were pretty middle of the road football program. And so baseball again was already started. So I'd take a week off after the bowl game and jump back into baseball. And so the challenge of balancing academics to being a 20-year-old that wanted to be a, you know, sociable person, right? And maybe chase some girls.
You wasn't social at all, man. No, they didn't do that in Minnesota.
No. And then being able to focus on athletics, you know, it was tough. And my senior year in football, I had a major injury, like the 7th or 8th week. We were at Ohio State, just pivoted wrong. And I had a Liz Frank, so my midfoot kind of broke in half. And so like the hardest moment for me, because all I could think about was, all right, I have an opportunity to go play at the highest level. Like this is my dream, to be an NFL football player. And now it's kind of taken away. It's a 9-month recovery process. Like, am I going to get drafted? Am I going to go somewhere? And, you know, just a lot of the unknowns. But as I look back, it was for good reason because I haven't had a break in 2.5 years from sports. And I was also concerned about after this football year, I have to go right into, you know, combine training. And like, I'm not going to get a break. Like mentally and emotionally, I'm wore out. And so in hindsight, I think that happened to give me this lapse of time to like get myself in a good place to be able to like survive an NFL career. And
it wasn't easy at the time to think that it was.
It wasn't. I mean, I was depressed. I was anxious. I was a lot of different things. And I was in Minnesota in November, ice on the road, crutches, slipping. Like why me? That was kind of the thought. Why me? And you know, it was a good testament to sit there and be like, well, it's not about you. It's, you know, like focus on the controllables.
Right, exactly.
And so my controllables were, again, getting better in physical therapy, you know, doing what I could to make myself available to make football a career. And man, again, talk about a journey. It was a journey that, again, kind of helped shape the person I was and the resiliency that I had to have throughout my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick pause here.
Yeah.
I have a segment I'd like to do called the 2-minute. Some easy soft toss, and it's going to be a rapid fire thing. You know, so,
let's go.
All right, we're going to go. Give me your funniest teammate. It could be baseball in college, or football in college, or NFL.
Oh, man. Well, I'll say I had a couple quarterbacks that were pretty funny. Adam Weber, college quarterback, and Ryan Fitzpatrick on the Jazz. Fitzy.
You played with Fitzy too?
Yeah.
Man, Fitzy's played probably with most players in the NFL.
Teams, yeah. 10 teams? Yeah, he's played with all of us. I love Fitz. Yeah, he's
awesome.
Yeah.
One of my favorite.
Yeah.
All right. Man, I would have thought Peyton would have been in that category. Funny.
Peyton is, yeah. Peyton's got good dry humor, but like Fitz and Weber were hilarious.
That's awesome. All right. Favorite stadium to play in? College or pro?
Mm-hmm. In the NFL, I loved Kansas City. It was, for whatever reason, I had success there, but just the environment was always packed and loud. And being in Denver, it was one of the biggest rivals for us. So that was fun. College, Penn State was the whiteout and just how the stadium is built. I mean, you got 100,000 people on top of you, and it was so loud. You just get that adrenaline just from that environment.
How fun has been on the field doing a Chiefs game when that flyover happens and it's
dude
Chiefs.
Yes.
I mean, I still get chills thinking about that. All right. One play in your career that you would love to revisit.
2013, when we won the AFC Championship game in Denver to go to Super Bowl, like that feeling. We lost the Super Bowl, but that feeling of confetti and just like the fanfare, the kind of overwhelming celebration and excitement as a team. Like, man, what we've been through to get here is so rewarding. I think just that moment in general would be fun to relive.
All right. Last one. Favorite quarterback story from it could be from Peyton, it could be from Fitz.
Yeah.
I know because these guys are funny.
Yeah. Well, the first one that popped up was
I noticed a quick laugh when I said that.
Yeah, because it kind of just was reminded not long ago. But Peyton was like the total prankster, and so he'd always, pull some prank on us. But we had a Sports Illustrated magazine cover shot that we were doing, and so the Bo Jackson, shirtless, shoulder pad with, the baseball bat was kind of what we were going at. So we had our PR team and the media team, social team, everyone in on this. So we had some hidden cameras as we're having dialogue between Peyton, Demaryius Thomas, Wes Welker, and myself, and how we can get Peyton to believe that, listen, like Sports Illustrated just wants a different look. They want us to shirts off, and Peyton, because it took a little bit to get him to actually believe that this is real, but once it did, the cameras, you could tell he's pulling the PR guy aside, like, what are we doing? This is a professional talk. Like, we can't be doing this, just like giving his color on it. And, because, he's obviously older and maybe not as in good shape as us 22-year-olds. But just his response and reaction to be able to pull a prank on necessarily the prankster was a beautiful moment for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know the Manning pranks because I was Eli Center at college, and he's played a couple pranks on me that
I believe so.
Yeah. So I'm not going to share them right now, but that's cool. So 2 minutes over. I really like this segment because it kind of gives a little bit of ease, but it's not like that high stress pressure of like some tough questions. So, but we're gonna jump back into that transition. You're getting ready to, your senior year, you have a foot injury, Liz Frank, very tough injury. You're also concerned of, what the recovery is going to be like. Do I get back to, my standard of play? Can I get my speed back? And so a lot of questions there. And then how do I show my talents on the next level? Because we know the combine is a big thing. We know, the interview process, all those things. And, so take us through that transition for you and getting yourself ready to control what you control, as you said earlier.
Yeah. So I went down to Arizona for combine training and my physical therapy, and it was actually great to kind of get out of Minnesota and get a fresh, kind of start in a sense somewhere else, because just needed some sunshine, some warm weather, and like focus on myself.
I'm sure that helped the injury, having some heat.
100%. And once guys started filtering down after their seasons for training, it was nice to kind of have the camaraderie again of other college athletes and striving for the same thing. And I was, recovering good, still, in a boot, and I had to get the hardware removed. And so I knew like I wasn't going to be able to do anything physical at pro day or combine. So what I could do is just like try to look as big as I could and be able to interview, just be myself. And so that's really the controllables, was showing up, being myself, obviously understanding offensive philosophies and showcasing, just
knowledge of the game.
Exactly, the knowledge of the game. And that's what I could do. And so I go on some visits, And then draft day comes around, and actually what was, big for me was Demaryius Thomas came to the same workout facility, broke his 5th metatarsal, got surgery. And so we were rehabbing together and kind of going through a similar, like he was highly, touted to be a 1st-round draft pick. And so the pressure he felt of being hurt now and having to recover fast was tough. And so we kind of bonded over that. Naturally, we weren't hanging out as much early on, but like that brought us together because we're on the training table and we're spending extra time there. And, we became brothers through that. And so he got drafted at Denver 1st round. I got drafted 3rd round at Denver. And so like that was a huge relationship for both of us. Yeah. And like he was like my guy. And so like through that draft process, the teams I went to visit started picking different receivers. I'm like, oh, like it's not going to happen for me. And I'm at home. I got like 100 people at my house. It's the 2nd day, and it's becoming, the draft is starting to get to the end. And I was like, I went for a walk. I'm like, I need to get out of here. And, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get picked. And what am I going to tell all my friends and family? Like, hey, thanks for coming, but it didn't happen today. Got the call, and just what a moment, what a celebration with those that have been there from the beginning with me and stuff. But just that, again, that journey was the unknowns. Like that's such a good lesson too, is that you can't control everything, right? Yeah. And so like I thought I could manipulate every little thing throughout the kind of my athletic journey, and just found out like, you got to put your hands up and be like, listen, I'm just here. I'm just gonna work. I'm gonna let things happen as they may and believe in the higher power. And so just thankful to have that experience, because it made me just be vulnerable in a sense, and just be okay with not being in control and just going with the flow.
Yeah. And that first year, going through that journey and then getting yourself ready with the guy that you've done a lot of training with, how easy was it to step into that locker room knowing that you had a buddy locked in arms there that just going through the same journey, shared the same fears, and now you guys on teams together to go out and make things happen?
It was great, yeah, because we definitely leaned on each other, because we both were kind of banged up when we got there and ended up getting hurt. Same high ankle sprain during camp, like kind of very parallel things that we're going through. So it was able for us to like obviously rely on each other for that, but to build a deeper relationship. And I ended up living with him that year, just because I'm super frugal, and he wanted a roommate. So I'm like, all right, you buy the house and I'll live with you. But no, it was fun having that time together. And when we show up too, it's like Champ Bailey's there, and so you're trying to showcase yourself, and you got Champ Bailey lined up across, just stiff arming you. And so it was a lot of emotions. It was tough. And Josh McDaniels was the head coach, and he was cutting guys every day in camp, bringing new people in, trying to scare the leaders of the team and the stars of the team to like, hey, you got to perform every day in camp, otherwise you're expendable as well.
Right.
And so that mindset for me is like, I'm a 3rd round draft pick. I'm not safe. Like, right. I'm not practicing because I'm at a high ankle sprain. I'm recovering from a Liz Frank. It was so much to deal with. And but to have, like you said, a friend that was in the locker room sitting next to me to kind of go through those long days and those hard times together, got us to the season and to be able to get on the field and have success.
Man, people don't realize how tough this business is. And you have to be mentally prepared and ready.
Yep.
And if you're not, this game will chew you up and spit you out.
It sure will.
And so to be a 3rd rounder, to show up already a little banged up and then get banged up again, how did you stay the course, and how did you ingratiate yourself with the rest of your teammates going through that process as a rookie to get by yourself some time and show what you can do?
Well, I just stayed quiet and did what I was asked.
That was our time. Be seen, not heard. Yeah. Go get me some donuts.
That's it. I did everything right that way. And so that was, I guess the important thing was just being a good teammate. I knew what my role was at that time. And, when I had an opportunity to get on the field, I was going to make the most of it. But yeah, in in the meeting rooms, in the locker room, in my community, all those things that I knew I could, at least make an indent or difference. I was focused on that. And so buying myself some time by just doing the right thing and trying to get better. And, I was blessed to have like a Champ Bailey and Brian Dawkins, who were very vocal and good leaders to the young guys to understand the game as well, And so like you go up against these guys and they'll just pull you aside, hey, young kid, come here. And they'll talk, this is what you did. This is what you got to try to do differently. And all that stuff was just information that you just took in. And when Peyton got there, same thing, like I learned so much in the 2 years I played with Peyton about the game of football than like really the rest of my career, because how we watched film, how we broke down certain people, what he did at the line obviously was very unique. And it allowed us to understand alignments defensively, coverages, and it was just crazy how we played fast. And we still hold every offensive record because I think we all bought into that idea. Right. And so that was, kind of for me was mentally, I gotta take this game mentally because physically I can't right now.
Yeah.
And try to like get an upper hand on this side.
Yeah. What year was it for you when Peyton got there?
It was my third year.
The third year.
Yep.
And so your third year in the league, you get the general.
Yeah.
And then he take you guys on a wild ride.
He sure did.
I mean, what was your favorite part of that ride leading up to Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was, really I think about like obviously the on-field performance and success we had was unlike anything that I got to experience. Like I said, we still hold all the offensive records, but it was the camaraderie off the field. I think you said Peyton has such a dry sense of humor. And so he was good about pulling guys together, going to dinner, just building that core. And those are the moments that I miss, that everyone misses is the locker room. And the camaraderie and the stories and just the memories you make. That's what he was great at. That kind of leader where he really loved and appreciated everybody and did a good job of getting to know everybody and then kind of bringing everyone together and spending time again off the field as much as on the field is what I remember the most.
Yeah. Do you know what type of leader you were in those times?
I definitely was a guy of just actions, and so I'll pull back again. Like my core values were like being consistent, reliable, kind of similar things. And so I wanted to show up. I wanted to be the same guy. And when you turn on the film and practice our games, like, okay, watch how Eric does it, and like that's where I felt like I led just by action. And then I think in the locker room, in a sense, like a thoughtful leader, I felt like what I was good at was a good listener.
Yeah.
I was kind of the Robin to Batman. I had Demarius, who was Batman. I was Robin. I had Brandon Marshall. I was Robin. I was good at being.
Man, y'all had a receiving core.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, no, I was very lucky that way. I had a quarterback carousel, but I had awesome receivers on the other side. But it was, I think that leadership for me was just, again, just being thoughtful, being a good listener and helping mold or, figure things out that way. Cause I wasn't the vocal guy. I wasn't the best in a sense, athletic receiver or just offensive player, but I was doing things right.
At what point did you realize you were a lead by example guy? Was it early in your life or, I know we're looking back hindsight, or was it about the middle of your career when you got to the league when you realized, okay, I'm a lead by example guy?
I think it was kind of like sophomore year of college is where I kind of, in a sense, created that label.
Yeah.
High school was probably a little more vocal because, these kids I grew up with from the age of 5. Yeah. But when I got to college, obviously everyone's from different walks of life, and I was just able to let my playing do the talking more than my mouth.
Man, I asked that because of, some of the things that we're doing, with Player Q and helping athletes, young athletes, identify their communication style, their leadership, their composure, their character, and giving them tips on how to improve in those different areas. That wondering of having that information early in life and how does that how do you progress faster, moving through those times. And so just a thought of mine that, we are trying to really get an understanding of from guys who've done it at the highest level, at what moment when these things start to connect for them. I didn't know until I was probably same thing in college, a lead by example guy. I wasn't like a screaming at people vocal guy. I was just, I'm going to be the first guy in the line, be the first guy in the building, be the first guy in the film room, be the last person to leave. So I didn't figure that out until I was, around that same time in college. And so figuring it out early in life, I wonder how much angst that would have taken off me, because like you said, growing up being the guy in these small towns, I felt like pressure that I had to be the guy to step up and lead the group and, make the speech, but that really wasn't my personality, but I had a lot of anxiety around doing it. And so, just being able to, understand that early on probably would have helped me, a lot. And so, all right. So as we started to really kind of wind this podcast down, your transition out of the league, I always think about, when I played, how do I control the and and the but? And what I mean by that is Chris Spencer was a really good football player, and he was exceptional off the field. Chris Spencer was a good football player, but he screwed up here. He did this and he did that, and that's the thing that people remember. So as you start to think about that transition to make your way into a new life, scared, not knowing what to do, how are you able to control that and but so that you can replicate that same success that you had going through college, high school, college, and to the professional ranks?
Yeah, I love that. I wasn't probably mature enough to have that thought process. I struggled. Like, the transition was super tough for me. And I think just the way it ended too, I had some major surgeries my last year in New York. So I got cut in June, went to Tennessee, played a year, got hurt during training camp. Kind of had the injury bug towards the end of my career. Went to New England, but I was just checked out mentally from the game. And going to New England really had me checked out, because Bill was like, practices were tough. And so I look back, and when I retired, I felt like, man, it was too early. Like I wasn't, I had more. I could have done more. And I think I had this vision of like playing a longer career and being on one team for a longer period of time. So those things didn't necessarily work out. And so as I did retire, I think I was ready, but not completely ready. And so I struggled with like identity dying of a football player, because I put all my eggs in that basket,
right,
from a young age to, being a 32-year-old when I retired. And I had a beautiful wife, kids, obviously like was financially sound, that I could kind of take my time. I had a great community. I had a lot of things going in my favor, but there's something just kind of rotten inside that I didn't know. And so I did a lot of soul searching, and it took 3 years to get to like that soul search of like a spiritual awakening of being okay with like, who is Eric Decker? What is Eric Decker good at? And that was a tough period for me.
I wrote that down. Who is Eric Decker? And that's my question for you.
Yeah.
When you went through this awakening, what did you stumble upon?
Well, I think what I'm passionate about is obviously my family and like being a great father and husband. But I think youth. I feel like, what you're doing, I can resonate with, because I put myself as an 8-year-old, in the shoes now, and like, what did I wish I had, or what do I wish I would have known, And so now that we've been down that path, walk the walk, and you're helping in a sense create a program for youth to build confidence and understanding of who they are and progress them with good habits, like that's exciting. And I think that's what I figured out is, I want to, in a sense, make a difference. What's my legacy going to be? My legacy is going to be that I was obviously a great husband, great father, great community member, and like I made an impact in that sense. Not, what doesn't excite me is like being a great businessman and, like all these accolades that I thought were important, money, fame, success in this world is the material stuff I've realized wasn't what I wanted. I think I was chasing it and that was validation of who I thought Eric was. But for Eric, it's, making an impact in our community. And so I'm trying to still figure out what that looks like.
Yeah.
But that's what gets me excited. And obviously I'm still a competitor. And so we touched on pickleball. Like that's been an outlet for me to have a competitive release, to be social, to experience new things. And so.
Well, this pickleball thing, I mean, I keep hearing a name that's floating around here that is just giving people the business. One of your former receiver guys,
Golden Tate. Yeah, he's real.
And I know how competitive he is, and I hear it. So, are you guys? You got your sights like an old boxing match? You got your sights set on?
Well, I think
challenging him.
We're two lefties. That's the only challenge. But we've played together and against each other, and he's had my number.
Oh,
he's had my number, but he's played a little bit longer. Now, but we talked about maybe doing some tournaments together, which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But we'll cross that bridge, I guess. But yeah, it's and that's the thing. It's the camaraderie to be able to kind of like-minded, similar paths, and to kind of build that friendship because he's here with kids, and we're all trying to find our way along this journey. And pickleball has been a good kind of bringing us together sport.
And so Eric Decker is controlling his an and butt, and his an is impact. Eric Decker, elite athlete, successful athlete, and he's about impact. I love that, man.
Amen.
I love that. I love that for you. The last question I have for you is, it's just such a hot topic that, keep talking about this transfer portal, NIL. When you're looking at this generation of athlete, that they have so much more pressure on them than we did because of the social aspect, because of the money aspect early in life versus getting to the league, and I think it's for parents as well. What advice would you just, you would like to leave, for this generation and their parents to kind of help them, some things to think about as they're trying to navigate these treacherous waters?
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack because you talk about the social aspect of it. I mean, we didn't necessarily have the Instagram and, even just these platforms that you can upload film. And, I always think about like your identity now is the likes you get on Instagram, right? I mean, that's a pretty chaotic, like crazy thing to think about. And so as a parent, you want to try to create an environment that confidence is built within. And so the transfer portal, same thing. Like your identity isn't weighed on necessarily your athletic success. It's the character that you build in that journey. And so focusing on that and allowing, performance to be what it is, but to know that you gave everything you have to be the best person, to be the best teammate. Like those things are what carry on in life, because I can look back and I can tell you the records I had in high school, maybe college, but even the accolades or the statistics, like all that stuff goes away. But at the core memories are the relationships you built, the values you built through hardship or through even the good times. And, focus on you as a person and that journey you're on, and enjoy the journey. Because again, it's a very small statistic of those that can make it as a career. And just, I would say that'd probably be my takeaway.
A lot. I do have one more for you. Give me one intangible that sums up Eric Decker.
Ooh. And you gotta coach me on this if this is correct or not, but it's well, I would say coachable. And what does that where does that fall in?
That's a strong one. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Open-minded, able to take criticism and mold myself in a way that's better. Always trying to get better.
Yeah. Coachable falls in that category of adaptability, because to be coachable, you got to have some adaptability there.
And I used to not be. And now I feel like that's been a big part of my journey is coachability. Yep.
Man, Eric, this has been a fantastic conversation. Really appreciate you joining us. I hope our listeners can learn something from this and also be able to take some of this and apply it in their daily lives and share some of this knowledge with their kids. And hopefully kids will start listening to this and come and visit us and figure out who they are so they can do this a lot sooner than we did so they don't make the same mistakes. So thank you again for joining us. Really appreciate you.
I appreciate you.